It's me, Brianna, and you're listening to episode 9 of Are We Caught Up Yet? Marvel Edition. Um, and today I'm joined by my friend Sam, who's nodding.
Greetings.
Okay. You can find us on youtube.com/Save the Game Media and podcast services. If you want to show Save the Game Media some extra love and get early access to all of our content, you can find us on patreon.com/Save the Game Media. And potentially tattoos. That's all I'll say
Okay.
for now. Before we get started, how are you today? And what have you been watching?
I'm quite tired, as is the standard. Busier than I thought I was going to be, which is again not out of the ordinary. What have I been watching? Not a lot. The only thing I've technically been watching is, we'll get to this at some point, but Secret Invasion, which is the current Marvel Disney Plus show that's running episode a week. I'm behind. I've only watched the first 2. There's 3 out currently, and the 4th is coming out this Wednesday. So I've got to catch up. But that's all I've been watching. Haven't been doing any films or any other shows or anything, so I'm quite boring in that regard, I'm afraid.
That's sad.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I kind of talked a little bit about it on No Limits yesterday. I did watch other stuff, so I'll just talk about that, so it's not like repeat stuff. I watched all of season 1 of Freemia, which I've already seen twice, but season 2 kind of is starting. It's not really a true season 2, but the next season of Freemia is starting, so I was like, what better excuse than to watch this show all over again? So I watched it for a third time. This is why I don't finish anything, is because I just rewatch everything I've already seen.
Yeah.
So I did that. I watched obviously Captain America. I watched I will say, like, just because I think it's worth reiterating, because I did really enjoy the film, I did watch Robot and Frank this weekend. So I'll just reiterate one here because I did watch it. I feel like I would have been okay just buying it, like, instead of just like renting it, but Sam tried to convince me. He's like,
Save money until you know.
yeah. I wouldn't have saved that much money, but it's okay.
Hey, every cent counts.
That's fair. So yeah, if anybody wants like a weird, funny, and slightly sad movie to watch until the end, and then it's really sad. Well, I don't know about like really sad, but I did cry. I cried twice in the film. One time just randomly, and then one time at the end.
Yeah.
The random time I just like got swept up in my own emotions, kind of thing. It's just, oh my god.
It'll do that to you. It'll do that to you.
So it was good. I was gonna say something about this yesterday, and I totally forgot to. This movie, weirdly, in a very like weird tangential way, reminds me of Nier, and I really liked that. The whole thing with Nier, like the whole, like, not the whole thing, but Nier Automata or Automata, however you want to say it. I don't want to get into that argument. The whole thing with it is that it's like there's androids and there's robots. And the androids are like, oh, well, we're like, for the glory of mankind, we do these things, like they kill robots and stuff. And then they're like, the robots can't feel anyways. But then the robots like start saying like, oh, I'm in pain, and stuff like that. And they're like, wait, but robots can't feel and androids can't feel. So what's going on?
You're
And
making Robot and Frank sound far more badass than it actually is.
Yeah,
it is in no
not
way
like that. It's not like that, but I mean, like,
Nier. I get what
no,
you
no,
mean, though. I
no.
get what you mean.
It's just like the weird feelings of like, do
commentary on
robots
artificial
have
intelligence and stuff
feelings?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. I wrote a whole paper on Nier because I loved it. Anyways.
Hmm.
All right. Let's see. So today we are going to chat about Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they always put thes in? Okay, questions. 1, why is it not and? Why is it a colon? Second question. Why is there always the Dark World, the Winter Soldier?
I mean, that's only two.
There's more than that.
I know there is. I was being pedantic.
Pull it
I
up.
I
That's
I
First
don't know.
Avenger.
Yeah. I think that's it though.
Oh, there's too many. The Avengers, the Incredible Hulk.
That's different. That's different. That's the actual canonical name for those characters and teams. I don't know. I think the whole Captain America and the Winter Soldier thing, that would indicate that it is the Winter Soldier is like a secondary protagonist.
See, but what in my assumption, in the way that the name sounds, like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, is that Captain America becomes the Winter Soldier. Like that's what it sounds like to me.
Sure, but I think it's mainly just for like simplicity's sake. Like I know that you can very much read that, but I think it is like this is a Captain America film. It is about the Winter Soldier.
Sure, I guess, but I was kind of bugged. I was like,
it's the same as like Thor: The Dark World. It's like it's a Thor film, and it's about the Dark World. Although technically it wasn't, because we talked about that last time.
That film. Yeah, I was going to say
we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about that film.
It doesn't exist. We don't talk about it. Yeah.
I was just going to say maybe it was directed by M. Night Shyamalan because like Avatar, but
hey, it's not that bad.
I can't believe you got my Ice Age reference yesterday, by the way.
I don't know where I pulled it from my brain, but it's there, obviously.
Yeah. You're the first person that's actually caught that. I actually say that fairly frequently.
Doom on you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been literally years since I've seen Ice Age. Maybe that'll be our next catch up.
I will not be present. That sounds like a horrible time.
Okay, that's not fair. If I watch all of these Marvel films and you can't watch a couple of Ice Age films.
But I've already seen them. So I know them. How else would I know fair. The Melon reference?
That's fair. I don't actually think that we should watch those, but
no.
Okay, so spoiler-free general thoughts on Captain America. I would say, what do you think, Sam? But you always say you go first, so I'm just gonna go first.
You are the newbie to these things, so I think it's more.
It doesn't mean that my opinion's more important than yours.
No, but I think that it's a good thing that you get yours out first, and therefore they aren't necessarily shaped or affected by mine.
Okay, I'm not.
Because you've got a more sort
of. I'm not that flimsy.
You've got more of a newborn sort of virgin opinion rather than stewing on it for years like I have.
You just like sit and think you're like that Captain America.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Spoiler free general thoughts. Generally, like, okay, let's see. What a plot. Like they actually had a plot. And it's not to say that the other films didn't have a plot, but I was like, is this a plot line that we're following? And it all makes sense. And I was really excited. I was like, should I just watch the next Marvel film? Because I was like so hyped about this one. But it's just because of the plot.
Yeah.
The plot got me. So I was excited. I liked it. I thought it was really good. I really wanted to not like it because obviously Captain America and America.
Sure.
Hand in hand.
Slightly unfair also, on the character, but you know.
Actually, I'll wait until we get into the spoiler part to ask a question because I think I might be biased on one thing. So I'll ask you about that in a second. So general thoughts. I really enjoyed this film, even though I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts?
I'd agree. I think it's a very good film. And I think that not necessarily this film in and of itself, but this film and a couple of films in this sort of time frame, phase 2 and a couple early phase 3, where I think this is really where there's sort of like a paradigm shift for these films, where, like you say, they aren't or should I say, they don't have to just be action heavy CGI blockbuster things. This is the first instance of a Marvel film that is, yes, still a superhero movie, but at the same time is a very competent sort of espionage spy thriller. And that just hasn't really been the case for any of the films prior to this. And it's a sentiment that you will see replicated more and more often as time goes on from this point forward, where they sort of venture into more genre filmmaking, or at least they dip their toe in with certain projects going forward. So I think it's a very good film, but I also think it's a milestone for them. I think it's a touchstone that you can view it's sort of like there were Marvel films before Winter Soldier and there were Marvel films after Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And there's a very clear distinction, which I think you will likely pick up on, I would imagine, for many reasons. But like you said as well, the fact that it has multiple plot threads running simultaneously, and they are all done
threads
very well. So
it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
very
crazy
good
how
film.
that works.
Yeah, if you pay attention to your plot, it might turn out okay, you know. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we'll go ahead and jump into spoilers. I want to start with a question because it's relatively towards the beginning of the film, and so I think it's a good starting point. Okay, questions on. Okay, first of all, were those the real police? In the very beginning of the film with the whole like Nick Fury thing? Because in my head I was just like, "Oh, yeah, the police are acting unreasonable. That's normal." And then afterwards I realized, "Wait, what if those weren't the real police and they were people faking being the police?" I guess it's possible, but doesn't seem like.
As you mean the police that were shooting at Fury?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they were definitely not the police. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
well,
Towards the end, when it got a little bit ridiculous, that's when I was kind of like, "Oh, okay, maybe not."
I
But
think
like the rest of it, I was like, "Yeah, police brutality. This is
not that
normal."
it's the question that the answer that you're necessarily looking for, but I don't know that it matters, because either they are Hydra masquerading as police, or they are a police force that has been corrupted and sort of in the pocket of Hydra. So there's, regardless of whether they actually are the real police or not, there isn't much of a difference in terms of whether they're bad or not.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So I've always read it that they aren't, that it's sort of like,
Once it got really ridiculous towards the end, I figured that they probably weren't.
yeah,
But
you know, like they do in various other areas, as you see throughout this film, just sort of very competently infiltrated certain things. So again, like, it could be the fact that they technically are within the police force, but they are Hydra, not sleeper agents, but Hydra enforcers that then got the go ahead to do the hit on Fury. But either which way, it just shows that the metaphorical tentacles of Hydra, they sort of root in very deep in various places.
tentacle porn jokes. All right.
Not the direction I was
So,
going.
so starting out with soundtrack, I don't think I picked up on anything, but I feel like it was a little bit less generic.
I
I
think
don't know. Go ahead.
I'm with you, but I think that the sting that the Winter Soldier has is one of the most iconic things to me
You think?
throughout Marvel.
I didn't catch the music at all. That's kind of how I tell is because if the music
And again,
catches my
okay,
attention.
so it might not necessarily quantify as music, although there is a track on the OST that is like Winter Soldier related, and it is basically just the sting that you have when he's shown on screen, repeated a few times. So I guess technically it constitutes as music, but it's not like a, you know, multiple minute long piece of music that sort of goes places throughout in the film. It's just, I can't even really, it's like a screeching, scraping noise.
Okay, yeah. I just pulled it up actually as you were saying that. Yeah, makes sense.
Which is, I think, one effective in sort of showing him as a like a domineering force to be reckoned with, and also that he's unpredictable and very violent. It's a very violent sound that accompanies him. But I would say, devoid of that, yes, it is less generic than First Avenger, but still not anywhere great.
Yeah.
Or memorable.
When do we start getting into the soundtracks? I feel like Guardians probably will, but that's like not soundtrack. That's more like
no, I
think
it that constitutes both.
It does? Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it's just the licensed music in Guardians that makes it work. Obviously, it's the highlight, but I still think that there are. I mean, it's cheating for me. I can say that I know tracks from the first Guardians films OST that I can hum to myself in my head now.
Okay, so then what other films like are we looking at next then besides Guardians?
Well, I mean, we're going to look at all of them, aren't we?
Really? Soundtrack wise, like.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to give anything away, am I?
Oh, okay. Well, I was just curious. Fine.
I'll just say that I think
spoiler.
that the soundtracks get better as time goes on, as the quality of the films do, in my opinion, for the most part.
Yeah.
So,
okay, I want to take a brief pause because I've been waiting to geek out about this and I keep forgetting to say something. So I have been so ingrained like all day, every day, like my Instagram feed, my TikTok feed, I swear is just Spider-Verse stuff at this point because I'm so obsessed with Spider-Verse. Speaking of music, when I found this out, I was freaking out. So Gwen's music, specifically from Across the Spider-Verse, her theme that plays, did you know that it's the original Spider-Man song? But like way sped up. Like way sped up.
oh yeah.
I had no idea and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so cool."
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much stuff in that film that they like that they get in and like art-wise, music-wise, like the whole thing is
We're
so
not
cool.
talking about Spider-Verse.
I know, but I'm just so excited about it. Okay, that's enough on the tangent. Okay. So characters. I kind of wanted to start with characters. Does this okay, hold on. Bechdel test. I think this does pass the Bechdel test. I'm trying to remember because if it would be Black Widow talks to what's her I like literally don't know her character's name. But the person from How I Met Your Mother.
That would be Maria Hill.
Okay. I feel like they talk in this film. But I think that would be the only time that it would pass the Bechdel test if it does.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any other female to female discussions happening. No.
Yeah. So that would be the only place if it does pass. That would be why. If it doesn't, It's fine. I'll
Boo.
let it slide on this one. Characters, I wanted to start with Nick Fury because the film kind of starts around Nick Fury, so I think that's a good starting point.
Okay.
I think partially that like so much time having passed doesn't ruin, but I was like, there's no way he's gonna die because I know he doesn't. Like, so I think that like the retroactive views on stuff is like kind of changing things. Same with like the last film with like I knew Loki didn't die. Not because he's like trickster, but because like there's a Loki TV show, there's more films with Loki in it,
Sure.
like that. So I was not worried about Nick. I was like, oh, did he actually die? Is everything else like in the past? I don't think so. So I wasn't like especially worried. But I was still slightly surprised like how they revealed like, oh, he's still alive. I thought that was like a good reveal. But yeah, I think if he had actually gotten away from that, I think I would have been more upset than him like having his whole like death moment or whatever because that was such an intense like everything was going wrong. Everybody was surrounding him and for him to like just like get away, like I think that
Yeah.
would have too far. But he didn't. He got shot anyways. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult when you know that there's X project still coming down the line that has a character in it. But I would say, from the perspective of somebody who saw it whilst it was in cinemas, it was very effective. Not that it's weird because Fury is like a simultaneously a very likable, personable character, but at the same time, he's never going to reach anybody's like S tier.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he is both personable yet somewhat bland / generic. And that's not down to Samuel L. Jackson's performance. I think he does a very good job every time we see him. But it's just that by the nature of his character, he is inherently less interesting than other people that he often shares the screen with. That being said, I think that his return in the latter half of the film, he does, he does sort of stake his claim. He does have a undeniable presence, like even if you
Absolutely.
can tell that he's not dead from the beginning sections of the film, even when he comes back, I think that still carries weight to it,
Yeah, I would agree.
because
I
of
think
how
it
they
did.
frame it.
Mhm. And I
That
also like the way that they got captured and then like it was actually Maria, I think is what you said. Anyways, yeah. So it was just like a really cool reveal still. I will say he did have the cheesiest moment in the film, which is like it caught me off guard, but like when he walks in the door and then turns and like the camera kind of zooms in on him a little, I was like, okay, that was a little much for me. But other than that, I thought that he had a great he did great in this film. And yeah, I like his character. I think he's interesting in terms of like everybody trusts him, but he's like, don't trust me.
Yeah.
So it's like a weird
Yeah.
trust dynamic. I was really expecting something more to happen like in terms of trust with like Black Widow, but it seems like maybe they're setting up for a later film because she's like, "Well, like would you trust me to save your life?" And he's like, "Well, now I would."
Yeah.
So that since that didn't pay off, like that feels like a Chekhov's gun. So that has to pay off in another film. So.
Sure. I think that that's one way to frame it. I think there's also the argument that can be made that it is just the film is trying its best in any given moment to frame it that no one outside of Steve, because obviously he's the protagonist, can really be trusted.
Mhm.
Like even the beginning mission on the boat, she has like an ulterior objective given to her by Fury that Steve wasn't even slightly aware of. and it almost got people killed, you know. So I think that they tried to frame it where Natasha is seemingly helping him throughout the film every single time that he needs the help, but there's still something, and obviously sort of it gets revealed as time goes on that they never want to talk about the Winter Soldier program and stuff like that. But I wouldn't necessarily, and I'm not spoiling anything. I wouldn't necessarily expect that like specific train of thought to pay off down the line. But I still think that the dynamic between the two characters that is created here, and sort of like the tightrope walk that they're doing in terms of trusting one another, is still a compelling dynamic that could be pursued further down the line.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And Fury lost, you know, we saw Fury, he's doesn't have an eye. Well, he does have an eye, but it's all
I am very interested into what that means. I don't know if it's just like a history thing where it's like
we'll never know. You know, it could be one of those things.
It could be magic eye. It could be just a weird eye. It could be, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Those
he
are my
said
only two options.
he said the last person I trusted is what lost him his eye. So what does that mean?
But his eye's still there.
Well, yeah, but his sight, you know, in the eye.
Oh, okay.
So why who's the last person he trusted? I don't know.
It wasn't me, so.
Well, I'd be surprised if it was, because you'd have to do that was some heavy like slash cutting stabby damage that you've done to that eye otherwise. But you've got that in you.
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. No, I did like that moment when he like lifted up his eye patch and he's like, he had like a different login basically, or a different executive, whatever.
Nobody thought to cut that eye out of the system.
Yeah. So
Fury did.
Okay. Do we have anything else we want to say about Nick Fury?
No.
Okay. Let's move to,
other than S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone, so he's not the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore.
I really don't believe that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s gone. I think it'll be started back up from like the ground up, and there will be like a couple of members, like
you might be waiting a long time then.
That's fine.
As in to present day.
Yeah, that's fine.
S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a tarnished name now, you know, because they leaked everything. They leaked all the files, all the confidential files of S.H.I.E.L.D. linking it to Hydra. So I don't think S.H.I.E.L.D. can exist anymore.
You know what I was thinking about that, like especially like when you see like all of those like the ocean kind of like those gates open on the ocean for like the ships to come out and stuff. I was like, as a citizen in this world, would you just not like, I would just get out of there. Like I would be like, oh yeah, there's superheroes in this world. I'm out. Like, I'm going on vacation to another city. Like this is too much.
No, not necessarily, because that's like a S.H.I.E.L.D. HQ building, so you probably feel relatively safe there. I mean, you could frame it that would be a target for anybody, but I think that the way that S.H.I.E.L.D. had presented itself thus far is that they were very capable of protecting civilians. Particularly,
what do you think it would be like to be a civilian in this kind of world? Like, I feel like it's so wildly unpredictable.
I don't know, it'd be pretty cool, you know?
Yeah. You think?
Yeah.
You think it'd be worth
Yeah,
the
'cause,
payoff of like getting to see superheroes on the like, because it makes the chances higher that you would die.
Yeah, but then like you would have none of the like BS problems that we have to deal with in our reality.
Yeah.
Because the superheroes could just put a stop to the things that we deal with. So would I trade a little bit of additional peril for the ability to solve and prevent problems, issues, wars, etc.? Not that wars wouldn't happen in a world with superheroes, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
they would be far easier to handle and contain and shut down if there were superpowered people about.
There could be, and we just don't know.
Have you seen me and Spider-Man in the same room? I don't know. Just saying.
I have seen shirtless Spider-Man.
Not canon. Not canon.
Love that. Okay, so character-wise, do you want to go to Natasha, or do you want to go to Steve? Take your pick. Take your pick.
You're
Take your pick.
steering. You got the steering wheel here.
Okay, we're going to Natasha / Black Widow.
Okay.
What do you think?
I mean, it's the best we've seen her. She is still, to some extent, a foil for Captain America. But then I don't think I have a problem with that as much as her previous appearances, because this is Captain America's film, and she is, for the most part, framed as like a, well, a sidekick, I guess, is the best way to frame it.
I would argue that she's probably his equal in this film for the most part. Maybe not in like the most major moments of the film, but I would say like for the most part, they seem to be working as partners and equals.
Sure. I mean, there has been some debate in the years since this film's come out that they could have very easily called this, like referring to your whole title spiel at the beginning of the episode. You could have titled this Captain America and Black Widow.
Yes, they could have,
but they didn't. But yeah, like I think, like I say, the what they did with her was good. She still has plenty of potential that is untapped in terms of her capabilities, but also just her personality as a character. But it's like an onion. We're peeling back layers every time we see her. This is the most sort of vulnerable or exposed that we've seen her, but you can still tell that there is much that she is withholding for various reasons.
Okay, I would say, like, how would I phrase this? Like, I feel like, I don't know how to phrase it, but basically, I think that her character is. I think she was really well done in this film. One thing interesting is that they are putting a little bit of tension between them. Not a lot, just a little between her and Steve. And I think if they had done this between Thor and Sif, like the whole plot from the Dark Worlds would have made way more sense. Like if they had done this kind of thing. Yeah. But they didn't. Oh well. I think like her character is really well done. I really like her, and I'm looking forward to seeing her more. I am kind of curious. I will say 100%. I'm not going to read the comics, but I am kind of curious as to, like, is her character always in reference to Captain America? Was she created independently of him first and then used?
Yes.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
Wait, you would prefer it the other way around?
No, I'm saying like if she was created independently, then they should have done an independent film for her.
Sure.
I think they do eventually, but like
can either confirm
they should have like earlier. Do you know what I mean? Like
absolutely. Yeah, that's not even in contention. She should have been arguably within the first phase, like the others were.
Yeah.
I personally, being a mega fan, would have loved if we had both a Black Widow and a Hawkeye film prior to the first Avengers. Because as much as I liked them both in the Avengers, I didn't like them as much as I did the others, because we had solo outings with each of them prior. So I knew a good amount about their characters already going in.
Yeah.
So yeah, missed opportunity, but
Okay.
What can you do?
Anything else that you want to say about her character?
No, but I would say that Scarlett Johansson herself has said this. The attire she is in is getting less and less sexualized as time goes on, which is a good thing. Because if you go back to like her debut in Iron Man 2, she has a quite provocative outfit on. And she does the whole changing in the back of the car thing in that film. It's like, and then you go to Avengers and it's not as bad, but it's still a little bit weird there. And then we get to here and she is like a competent tactical assassin-y spy first. And that's not to say that her outfit isn't like alluring or anything, because she is still, in the same way that you have like a topless man, it's like eye candy for the opposite sex, or anybody, whatever floats your boat. But I appreciate, and Scarlett Johansson herself, the actress, appreciated that in each subsequent project we are getting more and more away from the idea of her just being a sexualized character and focusing more and more on her, like I said, her capabilities and the depth of her character that comes about because of who she is and what she's done and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what else? I don't think I had anything else I wanted to say about her, but it was well said. Okay, let's actually, before we jump to Captain America, let's talk about Falcon. Just one, loved the character.
Yeah.
Thought that was really well done. Again, like another thread in the story that they followed through from the beginning to the end. And I thought that was very successfully done. I would give almost anything to have those wings. Almost anything. I think it would be so cool to fly like that. Like,
yeah.
Freaking wish. That was my point. Besides him being just a really cool character and actually sort of fleshed out.
Surprisingly so, for what is at best a supporting role in the film. A major supporting role, I guess, but still. An excellent debut for his character. Something that often gets overlooked, like the fact that he is in the VA and stuff, like he is a veteran, and he does help console people in the VA. I think that's an element of his character that a lot of people overlook. Not necessarily that it isn't continued going forward, but just that a lot of people don't talk about as much, which I think is what makes him the most compelling to me, that he has that kind of additional insight and perspective into the minds of people and how they work and how they think and how certain things affect people. I think that makes him a very competent just ally in general, not just a superhero. Take off the wings, I think he is just a valuable asset in general as a person, which is great. Like that's what makes the people that are the best in the MCU. That's what makes them great. It's that they are good people and good characters just by default, devoid of the superhero aspect. And that's just the added bonus added on top. They have to have a strong character foundation first to make them truly compelling. And I think Sam is probably one of the best ones we've seen thus far for a supporting character that isn't in like a title role or anything.
Yeah. I thought he was great. I assume he comes back as well.
You never know. No, he's just a one and done.
Ending.
Just a one and done. He's like, nah, can't be bothered. No more.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do Captain America next. I really enjoyed the I really enjoyed his character this film. I think that his questioning of everything is appreciated. Like like him like even before like all the stuff starts to go down, him going to Sam and like, "Hey," he's like, "Are you wanting out?" And he's like, "I don't know. I don't know what I want." And it's
Yeah.
true. Like he just like has been asleep forever and he was just like a soldier before and that's all he like that's what he was working towards. So he got his
Mm,
goal, got to live his goal a little bit and then huge time jump and he's like, "Well, I'm living my goal still, but is that even still my goal?"
yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's interesting like framing on his character. Um and I like that he is at least thinking about it. Even if he does decide like at the end of the day like, "Yeah, this is my calling. This is what I want to do." I think it's interesting and it's good that he's like thinking about it and talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, this is sort of like, again, talking about it being like a paradigm shift for the MCU in general. I think for his character, the events of this film, in both small and major ways, like subtle ways that you might not necessarily immediately pick up, and very very obvious ways, um, will have ripple effects going out across both characters, plot lines, general world building, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think at the heart of that it is Steve. Um, the whole man out of time thing. It's like you say, he was asleep for 70 years and he woke up, and it's the idea that as he wakes up, and you see it at the beginning of the film when he's running laps with Sam, and Sam gives him a recommendation, and he has the little notebook with all the little things that he's missed that he needs to catch up on. It's like at the beginning of the film, he is the man out of time. Everything's different. But as the plot starts to unfold, and Hydra is revealed, and Shield is corrupt, and nobody can be trusted, and whatnot, he realizes that everything's different, but nothing's changed. Right?
Mhm.
Like the dynamic and the issues that the world is facing, and the problems he has to solve, are no different to what he was fighting in the 40s. It's just that they're wearing a different suit now. Um,
His outfit
and
still.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Fan favorite costume, this one, by the way, for Captain America.
No.
Sort of, yeah. Hey, I'm just saying that's what it is. It's the fan favorite. Um, yeah, like again, it's weirdly going back to your whole thing about not jokingly not liking the character because he's got America in the name. It's not necessarily overtly said here, but it is kind of like Steve is realizing that the thing that he's representing might not be good, and he can't sort of blindly follow orders and stuff now.
Yeah.
Like he finds security in that to begin with, going out on the missions for Fury and stuff like that, but he realizes that he can't work for an organization because it's happened so many times. He saw it with the Nazis rising to power and taking everybody off guard, and then he's now seen it with someone on his own team that he thought was like, oh yeah, I'm with the good guys, and then Shield were revealed to be the bad guys all along, so to speak, for the most part. So I think he just has a psychological reckoning, that fundamentally shifts who he is as a person, and what he stands for and believes in, and the things that he will tolerate. Um, and you'll see that going forward. So yeah, no, he very good development for him as a character, I think. Um, Even if it's not necessarily overtly obvious within this film itself, I think you can see that he's in a very different place at the end of the film to how he is at the beginning, for obvious reasons. But I think that as you get further and further away from this, you'll realize that this was the moment for Steve as a person.
Yeah. I think that it's really well done. And I'm glad that it was really well done, because I think that this might have been like a breaking point if this film hadn't been done well.
After Dark World, Jesus Christ, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, not to say
The
that the
biggest
MCU would have like
180.
stopped, but like it may have been bad for the MCU
Yeah.
if this film hadn't been done well.
Hmm.
Okay. What else? Are there any other characters that you wanted to touch on?
I mean, it's probably worth talking about the
Bucky
other
or
titular character. Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I don't know. What are your opinions?
On Bucky?
Yeah.
Um I don't remember if I said something. I don't think I did, but I was kind of suspecting that he wasn't dead. I was like, the
I
thing
tried.
is
I was
unless
trying so hard in the Captain America thing to just do my best to convince you that he was dead. Because I didn't know. I didn't know whether you already kind of knew, because you might
no,
have
I
heard the
didn't.
Winter Soldier before and then associated that, and I was like, oh no, okay. But
No. Yeah,
I
it
tried
wasn't
very
that. It
hard.
was more like the thing is with like a lot of these big blockbuster films, unless you physically see somebody die, for
Sure,
the most part, they're not dead,
sure.
right? Like that's just generally a rule. It's like there's no way they could have survived that fall. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a superhero film, so like they probably
Mm,
could have survived that fall.
yeah.
So yeah, that was just more like since we didn't see him actually die, then it's probably gonna come back at some point.
And he
I
did.
didn't suspect it would come back this way, but
There you
yeah.
go. There you go.
I thought that they could have done a little bit more with his character,
Hmm.
but I think that they're doing not a lot of setup, but I think they're doing a little bit of setup to like do more later. And I'm kind of okay with that. Like I think they could have done more now, but it's okay to not have done all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, I think it's tough to do more with him in this film without it feeling rushed. Like, I think that because you have to reintroduce him and be like, surprise, he's not dead, but he's a bad guy and he's brainwashed and he's the primary antagonist and you have to fight him and stuff like that. And then obviously that's a narrative tool to cause conflict both internally and externally with Steve, obviously. But I think that I think the only way you can do more with his character is by pulling on some of the threads that, like you say, they do establish in terms of there is a little bit of him before the brainwashing still in there. Like he recognizes Steve, and it causes him to hesitate in certain moments. So it's like there is still part of him in there somewhere. I don't think you can pull on those threads within this film, either without the film being absurdly long, or without being like, oh well, he went from a bad guy to a good guy, or to an anti-hero or whatever, very quickly. So I think that with what they had available to them in terms of like running time, in terms of like believability, I
I think
think
they
it
did well.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, without spoilers, they have, yes, absolutely. Consider this more so than anything else, just the introduction of his character, and the themes surrounding him and the struggles he's dealing with. Um, he at the end of the film, he just sort of walks off, and we don't know where he's
Mhm.
gone, what he's doing, what he's thinking. Is he, has he broken out of the brainwashing at that point because he saved Steve's life by pulling him out of the water? What's going on? And him and Steve and Sam go off to find him. They're trying to track him down, clearly.
Mhm.
So who knows?
Who knows indeed. Probably you, but
I'll probably do, yeah, probably if I thought hard enough.
whatever. All of the plots are probably just like written on the inside of your brain, so you don't have to think that hard, I
Yeah,
assume.
no, not at all.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I will say that like this sounds like kind of weird, but like that was he almost made my simplest, but then he didn't. I was like, no.
Okay.
So
I was pretty convinced he was going to, but
yeah.
hey, if he got close, that's enough for me. I'll take that as a
Yeah, I
W.
mean, the thing is that it's okay. Okay, I thought he was attractive in the first film, but I was just like, "Oh, he's cute," right?
Mhm.
And then I like not knowing it was him, like
Yeah,
the whole mask thing, and I was like, "Damn, that's hot,"
yeah,
right? I was like, "Great." And then like it sounds messed up, like when they revealed his face, I think it's the way that they do his makeup and the way that like his hair doesn't really look natural without the mask and stuff like that.
mm.
Like it just didn't work for me. I was like, "No, this is not it. This is not it."
Time will
So,
tell. Time will tell.
yeah, we'll see. But okay, let's see. I think that's it for characters then.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, last we have like themes slash story. I
Mm.
feel like we touched on a lot of themes, but um like in terms of story, again, I think it's worth reiterating that like the way that they like that this film kind of unfolds, they pick up a lot of threads and actually follow those threads through. I
Yeah.
mean, even like the very first part of the film is like the running, he's like on your left, and the film ends with the on your left, right? So like they're paying attention, it feels like finally to like what's being said. Like what are the story threads that are happening? It feels like they're actually like conscious of like everything that's going on at this point.
Yeah.
Like
It's
so
like the one of the few films that we've had thus far where it hasn't just ended in a big CGI fight, you know?
yeah.
It's
I
just
you know what? CGI fights were pretty well done. I think that they were tastefully because it's like, oh, like obviously this is a film for dudes, so we need explosions. But, like, they did it sparingly, like not sparingly, that's not the right word. They
yeah.
paced it correctly. They paced the explosions correctly. So, it
Hmm.
was, like, some story and then, like, a couple explosions. So, I wasn't like, it wasn't as egregious as it normally is. So, I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, fine. You can have your explosions." Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the people, like, in the crew just get so they're like, "Look, this car's gonna explode. Yes." It's like so,
Yeah.
but, yeah. Um Okay, is there anything else that I wanted to say with like the story stuff? Is there anything you wanted to say? Story, themes?
No, I mean, I think I touched on the story when I was talking about like, you know, the evolution of Cap as a character and sort of the cornerstone moment or whatever. Um, the only thing I'd say is that I think this is, and I'm almost certain I've already said this with one of the other films, but I think that this is like a definite concrete example of what makes the MCU great, and what makes it so compelling project to project. In my opinion, is because I think I said it with the Avengers of, you know, how it all culminated together of everything coming before. But this film, I think, does work if you haven't seen anything else. Like on a fundamental level, it does still work. But you know, whether you're talking about the reveal of Bucky being the Winter Soldier, or whether you're talking about the reveal of Shield actually being Hydra, or whether you're talking about you know, when Steve and Tasha go to the bunker, which was Steve's old military camp or whatever, and he
Mhm.
finds Zola on the computer, you know, the short little scientist guy from the first Cap film, talking about Hydra and stuff. Like those are all relatively minor moments in the film, but I think that with the added context that you gain from having seen the projects that they are referring back to,
Mhm.
again, in the grand scheme of things, they don't mean that much, but I think that they make, if you have seen those other things and you can pull on it yourself, with the help of the film, obviously, sort of referencing back to them, it makes it so much more satisfying of a viewing experience, I think. Because you could view this as a relatively generic sort of spy espionage thriller thing, but when you've got that extra intuition and knowledge from other things that you've seen. I think that's what sprinkles the little bit of magic over it. Whereas, like, I wouldn't have had the same experience watching this film if I hadn't seen X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And you can view that as homework, which is like, that's fine. But that's the same as like if you jumped to the season finale of a very popular show and you're like, well, I probably should have watched all the episodes leading up to this so I knew what the characters were doing. It's just that this is on a scale that we have never seen before. Obviously, basically everybody's trying to do it nowadays, cinematic universes and stuff. But especially like around the time that this came out, this kind of stuff, this world building on such a specific, intricate little detail level, it continues to be mind-blowing. I think that they've executed it so successfully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think I have much else to say about like themes and stories. I think this is well done. One thing I would like to see explored more is like in terms of themes. And I think I talked about this as part of Iron Man as well. But one of the things that we don't see a lot is like the effects that these huge events have on people. Like not just like PTSD, but like what it does to them beyond just that, right? And I think that I would like to see more of that with these characters because they're going through these pretty insane things. And I think we don't see like a lot of that, like what are the repercussions on them?
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean,
I think I would
like you
like to see
say,
that moving forward. But
yeah, even from like a civilian perspective, you had a massive, humongous fight with literal aliens in New York, and now you've had what would be like, I don't know, the equivalent of like a CIA or something, or an FBI with high tech weaponry and stuff. You've just seen them basically implode massive airships over a civilian area with, how is that being spun in the news? Like, what does debris come down and land on people? It's like, it's just, there is
I would say
fallout,
like
not just for the characters, but just for the world in general.
yeah, I think that it would be so like I have no idea how they would do it, but it would be so cool to have like maybe I'm talking like if this already exists, don't tell me. But it would be so cool if there was like literally somebody that's not a superhero, that's just a journalist that is like following these major events and like watching them through like a TV show or something. Like
Yeah.
each major event that like is seen from a civilian's perspective, like is done in like one episode or two episodes or whatever. Like I think that would be so interesting and so cool. But I'm sure it's been done before, either
Again,
in the Marvel universe or elsewhere.
the more human characters are often the most compelling. So I'd be down for that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So through lines, Stanley was the security guard, and he was
Sure
like, "Oh
was.
man."
I'm so getting fired.
He's so funny. And then through line again, end credit scene, we see Bucky kind of seeing a like memorial to himself, which would be really weird. I have to say that would be a really weird experience. I think there's another through line, but I think the only reason I know that there's a through line there is because I do know some spoilers, so I'm not going to mention it just because it's not an educated guess. It's like I think I know from spoilery stuff. So I won't mention it just in case, but I think
In
there's at
reference
least
to, just vague so I can catch on.
Peggy.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that vague enough, hopefully?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay. So that is another through line. Assuming like we're going to see more of these characters moving forward, obviously. Is there any like other through lines that I missed that are like maybe less obvious that wouldn't be considered spoilery for future?
No, I mean, I just like reiterate like the collapse of Shield, how it's been like an omnipresent thing throughout the entire MCU thus far, and how this film has sort of fundamentally reshaped not only how we think about it, but does it even exist anymore? And what are the consequences of that? Like, if Nick Fury isn't the director of Shield anymore, what's he going to do? He burns all the files and secret stuff at the end of the film. So it's like, what does a man of his caliber, with his talents, like, if he's not the head of an official agency running the Avengers, what does he do?
I will say, I think him saying, "Oh, I'm going to London," I think that's probably in reference to another film. But I guess we'll see. He
I
just
don't
went to
know.
visit you.
Yeah, it just popped in. Just to say hello.
Okay, ranking.
Run me through my
We have
list.
8 films. We have 8 films: Avengers, Thor, Iron Man 3, Iron Man, Captain America, First Avenger, Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, and Thor: The Dark World. Just so you know, mine's already in the list. I'm just gonna wait for you to say yours first.
I'm actually. I think it's hard for me to like wrap my head around, because I know how future films will rank. I'm actually going to put this at number 1 for now.
Okay. Any guesses on where mine is in the ranking? Just out of curiosity.
I imagine it will similarly be high.
So here's my list: Iron Man 3,
just
Avengers,
say
Thor,
without.
Iron Man 2. So those are like the top 6.
So Iron
5.
Man.
Sorry. Iron Man 3, Avengers, Thor, Iron Man 2, Captain America, Thor: Dark World, Incredible Hulk.
Two.
Behind Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
No, it's number 1.
Oh, hey,
I was just so excited that there was a story going on, that they followed the
yeah.
plots. I was
It's
like,
just a
whoa,
very
basic
good film
storytelling.
across the board. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Who knew? Who knew?
Did they okay, this is a real question. Did they hire like a new writer or something to help them do that? Because it's like these are
No, but that is a very good point. This is the beginning of a beautiful blossoming relationship in the MCU. The screenplay for this was done by a duo, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and they have done other stuff before. I'm just looking through. They this is gonna concern you, and it's gonna surprise you. They were actually writers on Thor: The Dark World. You know, who knew they could go from that to this? But they are.
maybe it was the editing. Maybe it was the editing.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. There's many problems with Thor: The Dark World. They will, without telling you what yet, not that it really matters all that much in terms of who's writing what film, but they make multiple subsequent appearances because of how well they did with this. Similarly, you've probably heard of them, but this is the first film in the MCU directed by the Russo brothers.
Ah, there we go. That's what I was waiting for.
Anthony and Joe Russo.
Are they still MCU or did they jump ship? I can't remember.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole drama.
Are
Okay,
they
so
are they still currently? Technically, no. Have they shut the door on it? Also, no. It's kind of in limbo at the minute. I think if the MCU is in enough trouble at some point, they will decide to pay them enough money to bring them back.
Yeah.
And the Russos would probably be happy to do so. But yes, the duo of those two writers, Marcus and McFeely, and the Russo brothers as directors, they are a force that cannot be reckoned with.
What would you do to have dinner, like, at that table? Like, those 4 people and you?
Bree, I would not have legs. That's what I would do. I would give my legs. I give one leg to Anthony Russo. I give one leg to Joe Russo, and I'd say, "This is my flesh sacrifice to you to get at the table. Put me in one of these things," you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know where they're going to be eating dinner. So if I knew, it would probably happen. Just
Well,
give me a sedative.
probably
Move on.
somewhere in America.
They're all over the place nowadays. They're all over
Who
the
knows?
place. So
Yeah,
right
not
place,
Hollywood's
right
here.
time. It might happen. Who knows?
Who knows? You'd probably poop your pants if that just like happened. You just like
It,
walked in a restaurant.
most certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you wanted to say on this film before we go?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. Special shout out to our current patrons. We have Bucky Blue, Amon, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotwright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, and Alpaca Tom. Thank you guys so much for your support. Getting us one person closer every time to tattoos. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter currently at Sam Heaney, Heaney.
Do you think you're gonna move to Threads like when it like I know it's not available
I'm just
but
observing from a distance, you know, because
yeah.
the whole thing is that as far as I can tell from Threads, you can't delete it without deleting your Instagram account, and I don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
I don't want to get on board with that platform, realize it's a
Mm.
tire fire for one reason or another, and then be stuck with it. I'm going to hold off. If they separate that connection, maybe, or if it turns out that Threads is great and Twitter gets worse, which it seems it's going to, then maybe I'll just do it anyway because everybody else does it. But time will tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. You can find me at Fabulous Brianna, FabulistBreanna. You can find Save the Game Media at Save Game Media or Save the Game Media, depending on where you go. And thank you again for hanging out. We'll let you go and we'll see you in
Guardians of the
2 weeks.
Galaxy next.
Guardians of the Galaxy next. Yes. I have seen this film actually, so.
What's the point? What's the point?
This is one of the very few films I've seen. English? Okay.
Hey, it's
Right.
a good one to have picked. Anyway.
I didn't. I watched it very begrudgingly. I did not want to be there. But anyways, talk to you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.